Right, if you just joined us, this is still Enterprise Morning on Enterprise TV, and now to our main conversation for today. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is today attending the inauguration of Faye as President of Senegal.
That's right. In a statement on Monday, presidential spokesperson Adrian Gilali said Tinubu would depart Abuja for Dakar, capital of Senegal, and venue of the inauguration.
Yes, Gilali added that the president's visit is on the invitation of the Senegal'S government. The 44-year-old Faye won more than 54% of votes cast in the country's delayed presidential election.
Last week, Senegal's Constitutional Council affirmed the presidential election victory of the opposition candidate.
As chairman of ECOWAS, Tinubu will be joining all the regional leaders to witness the inauguration that will signal a consolidation of democracy in a sub-region that has recently witnessed frequent coups.
He will be accompanied on the trip by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Maitama-Tuga, and other senior government officials.
Yeah, the spokesperson said Tinubu is expected to return to Nigeria after the inauguration. And with us today in the studios to make sense of this big story is Emeka Madu Nagu. He is a journalist and also a public affairs commentator. Good morning to you, Emeka, and welcome to Enterprise Morning. And still with us is Dr. Olanka Oyebile, a communicator and a public affairs commentator. Good morning to you, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Welcome to Enterprise Morning today. All right, so gentlemen, let's start off our discussion today. Of course, recognizing the fact that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the chairman of ECOWAS. Of course, it makes perfect sense for him to be on this a very graceful celebration. But the question is, don't you think it's laughable that at a time when Nigeria hasn't seen no reason to commit completely to defending the people's vote, don't you think it's somewhat laughable for us to grace a country where the people have good respect for democracy? I'd love to start with you, Emeka.
Well, I don't agree with your line of thought.
Okay.
Because Nigeria is practicing democracy. We had an election, even though it was heavily disputed, but it's not unusual in a democracy because you have freedom of speech, you have the right to protest, and you have the right to seek redress in the court of law, which some of Tinubu's opponents did. So then on and on, we have the presidential arm, we have the National Assembly, we have the judiciary, we are operating with the Constitution. So I think we have a full democracy. Yes, no system in the world is perfect. No system is perfect. Yes, and then if you remember, Nigeria since independence has had interruptions to democracy. I like to say that if Nigeria had had a long run of democracy since 1960, by now we would have outgrown, expectedly outgrown some of the, a lot of the imperfections that we've had, that you are going through now. But be that as it may, also, we may have to commend Nigeria for how it responded to the coup in Niger Republic. In defense of democracy, it was in defense of democracy that Nigeria rallied some ECOWAS, West African nations, to impose sanctions on Niger Republic. So definitely, Nigeria should be commended for showing the way in terms of democratic practice and for fighting for the restoration of democratic rule. Yes, of course, it is within anybody's rights to say, a democracy should be better than this. But to say we don't have a democracy, that would be trying to call white another color, and that would not be helpful.
All right. I don't know. Do you have a follow-up question to that?
Thank you so much, Emeka, for always coming to. My question is directed to the communicator in the House, Dr. Olanka. Thank you so much for coming through. So my question is, what's the significance of this inauguration, and then what do you think that the takeaways should be for President Bola Tinubu?
Yes, it is very significant in a way that the president is the chairman of ECOWAS, one, and for him to be there, it will show that, look, the West African sub-region is solidly behind democratic movement or democratic rule. Because in the last few months, there have been a setback. And as Emeka has said, Nigeria has played its own role to make sure that, look, democracy might have its own drawbacks, but in all honesty, democracy still has a lot of things to teach. Because in a democracy, people have right to disagree. People have right to show their discontent. But in a military regime, that one is not possible. And you also remember the reason why the president had to attend is that the outgoing president in Senegal unconstitutionally postponed the election, and he was still insisting that he would still leave. You postpone the election. When are you going to leave? You never gave us a date. So, and the people, the Senegalese, they all came out and said that no, this must not happen. You cannot come to destabilize our democracy. And you will also remember that Faye is not even, it was not supposed to be the presidential candidate. It was Sonko or so.
Okay.
But Sonko was either rightly or wrongly arraigned before a court, and the court convicted him. So he was no longer fit to contest for an election. That was why Faye came in. So the truth of it is that no matter the imperfection, democracy will still have its way. We all remember what happened in Côte d'Ivoire some years back. The same way that I've forgotten his name now. The then president, Ouattara, between Ouattara and what's the other man's name? I've forgotten. I'll remember in the course of the program. When he said he was not going to leave. So, as Emeka has said, if we had not had the interruption in 1983, on the eve of 1984, when General Buhari and the late Idi Agbon toppled the Buhari and the Shagari government, we will have learned our lesson. Up till tomorrow, I still believe that democracy is still better. I mean, when you say that democracy, they are not doing well, and then you bring in military, and then you want to correct, it's like saying that when you have a child, your child is maybe going to a year old and is learning how to walk. But because the child keeps falling down, you now restrict the child to a chair and tie him or her up that until you are able to walk very well, I won't allow you to enjoy yourself. The child will never learn to walk. So, democracy will fall, we will learn. I believe that the 2027 election, God keeping us alive, will be better than 2023 election. The reason is that we have learned both the ruling party and the opposition party have learned some lessons. So we should not say that because one thing has there has been a failure in one way, then we are not going to go ahead with democracy again. It is still the best form of government.
Okay, so while we agree that it is the best form of government, of course, that is the truth, but we still would agree that you can beat a child and expect the same child not to cry. And the reason we have the coup d'etats in the sub-region is simply because of democracy that has gone sour. Democracy that hasn't delivered on the real essence of democracy, dividends of democracy, and that's the reason. Now the question is, do you think it makes a perfect sense to keep pampering a democracy that isn't working even in the first place? Do you think it's good enough to keep having that and not see a coup d'etat or an after effect of that coming to pass? Then secondly, do you think if this were to happen in Nigeria, do you think it would have been possible to have a delay in the presidential election and after that an opposition coming to take a center stage?
Well, for me, democracy still remains the best. Constitutional democracy that promotes the rule of law. You know, we have different forms of democracy across the world. In Russia, it's a dictatorial democracy in some places. But look at the United States, which prides itself as the bastion of modern democracy. You saw what happened under Donald Trump. You saw for the first time insurrectionists invaded the Congress, which was an abomination. But they were jailed. Now Donald Trump is fighting for his life. Yes, even though he's dancing all over the place, thinking he will easily ride back. But like I have said, he will not come back. Let him try all his tantrums. He will not come back. You see, let me tell you something. We're having a gradual shift to younger demographics globally. And now, you find out that, okay, children born in 1999, when democracy returned to Nigeria, they're now adults.
Sure.
Some are married with children. They're in their 20s. Some are even running businesses, holding positions. So the point is this, and it's been, you can now see that there's a paradigm shift towards issues that have to do more with the people. So that's why, for instance, the United States hasn't been too keen to fly into every conflict zone, and put boots on the ground. It's part of that gradual shift. So we come to Nigeria. Look at what happened in the last election. The young people came out forcefully to say, we must be an integral part of this election. And let me tell you, you see, this idea of using thugs and weapons, I tell people, a day will come when politicians will regret ever doing such things, because the people will fight back. You only know what you are carrying, you don't know what the other man has. So what we want in Nigeria is a contest of ideas, not crude resort to ethnic bigotry, to religious bigotry, to thuggery, to snatching of ballot boxes and all that. Now, it is also incumbent on President Bola Tinubu to ensure that future elections are free, fair, and credible. Because people will show him, we display his scorecard to him. Now, of course, people are still, there have been mutual conversations about, there should be military coup and all of that. But the military is not better. The military are not trained, to engage in dialogue, to handle democracy. They are not even trained in, you see, if the military was such fantastic people, they wouldn't be having some of these, but people just counter coups. Even in engagements with civilians, you see how many civilians die. They go somewhere, look at like in Okwama. Yes, you are responding to the brutal killing of some officers and soldiers. But you now burnt down Okwama, burnt down many communities along the coast. Of course, democracy does not support an eye for an eye. What democracy does is that you look for the culprits, you apprehend them, investigate, and charge them before the court. If they don't have money to defend themselves, you provide free legal advocacy for them. But military rule tries to impose the puritanical ideas of, the coup plotters. And for me, coup plotters should be arraigned, should be tied to the state and shot. Because you cannot interrupt the will of the people. Everywhere it is the people. Whether it's a political party, it belongs to the people. Whether it's democracy, it belongs to the people. Sovereignty resides in the people. So anybody trying to use up the will of the people should be tied to the state and shot. But, of course, the world now says no to capital punishment. So take them to jail. And then prepare farms there where they will work. So that after some time, when they have been cured of that aversion for democracy, they will turn around.
All right. So while we agree, right, Chino, that the will of the people, okay, supersedes every other, the current president of Senegal, Faye, is 44-year-old, and the question is
With two wives.
with two wives. Okay. The question now is, do you think it's possible to have such in Nigeria, where our own 44-year-olds are very, very busy conversing for their grandfathers to lead them?
Taking into consideration
Yes.
not too young,
Not too young.
arrived, did not make much progress.
Exactly.
On the floor.
You know, the truth of the matter there is that you will not blame the grandfathers who are running. You will blame the youths themselves. Because even the youths are not ready to support themselves. And the youths always see as if they don't go through these godfathers, things will not work. It is at a point where they will come to their realization. For instance, we always talk about who are the majority who vote. When you look at it, they are the youths. But the problem is that the youths don't galvanize themselves to take over the leverage of power.
Or is it the grandfathers not making it easy for them to galvanize themselves?
Even if the grandfathers want to take it, if the youths are united among themselves, let's take, for example, the NSAS movement. At that point in time, if the government had not quickly come down to what it did at that time, those youths themselves, they were at some point not very organized. They were saying that they don't want one person to be a leader. But in every moment, there must be a leader. Because if you don't have a leader or a focal point person, then the mob will take over. So, if at that point, the youth, as they organize themselves, it was not a planned thing. We must get that. The youth just decided to be assembling there, and people were saying that these are their age mates. Everybody gravitated towards that area. At that point, they should have thought of, okay, what do we do? How do we mobilize ourselves? Because if you don't mobilize yourself, those who have the wherewithal will mobilize you. And that is what is happening. The youth believe that their own kind of thinking is they've seen Mr. So and so, he has money, and they want to also get money. And how do they get it? They know that if they kowtow to him, he will give them some chunks. That is the reason. But in Senegal now, you will not tell me now that there are no grandfathers in politics there. There are. Right. But the youths rallied among themselves and said that no, we are not going to have it again. Therefore, they cooperated among themselves. And the issue of whether democracy is better than that if democracy is bad, that's why the military comes in. I don't agree with that.
Really?
Even in military regime, where are their counterpulls? Why did Babangida push away the government of Muhammadu Buhari and Iliabu at that time? So there will always be, whether it is military or civil rule, as he has said, there is no perfect government anywhere in the world. It is only God's government that is perfect. As long as it is run by human beings, there will be false starts, there will be problems, but we must sit down and contest ideas. The civilian government gives you that opportunity. But in a military regime, the general or whoever leads says this is what we want to do, and everybody will salute, yes sir, and they go ahead and implement it, whether it is right or wrong. No colonel, if the government is led by a general, no colonel will question the general. And that is the reason why, if the middle rank takes over, they send away all the senior officers. because they don't want the junior officers to be commanding the senior officer. But in a democracy, whether you are older than me or I'm older than you, as long as I hold a post and the post is higher than your own, we can contest. You are not going to bow to me because I'm older than you. So we can contest ideas. You are not going to bow down to me because the president in a democracy cannot direct a governor to rule a state. He can only advise, and the governor has the power because they are not voted for at the same time. So all we are saying is that, yes, democracy is good. Democracy is the best form of government. We should not be over anxious to say that, yes, the government has not done what we wanted. That is the reason why we have 4 years. Under a military regime, the military doesn't tell you how long it's going to stay.
Very true.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olanka. Speaking of democracy, Emeka, there's a palpable fear that the ECOWAS might use Senegal as a launch pad to make a case for democracy in the sub-region. If that happens, what are your prognosis?
That would be lovely. That would be lovely. Because, like I said, we have changing demographics. The youths are getting older. They're getting wiser. They're getting more involved in governance. Yes, some youths, who find themselves in governance in Nigeria. I don't want to name them, but they didn't really acquit themselves, in such a way that people confidently point to them as shining examples, good leadership. So you see people say, no. But we have a not too young to run act. It's an act of parliament and it must be implemented. Now, the youth should also take note that it's not enough to just run for office and then when somebody else wins and gives you an appointment, you take it and that's all. What you are doing is you are just mortgaging, you are putting your stomach, even though the stomach is in front, but you are distending your stomach and putting it ahead of your brains, of your ideas. Because nobody will take you seriously. They just look at you as a cash and carry kind of position. Don't worry, by the next election, when another person wins, they'll just settle him or her with a position. The youths must come out. They must show that yes, Nigeria is actually the bastion of democracy in Africa. Some African countries like Cote d'Ivoire have actually been able to cure themselves of some of their imperfections. But in Nigeria, we still have, I won't say we have a long way to go, but we still have some steps. We must share the baby steps and leap. Like the Chinese say, they don't walk or run, they move in leaps and bounds. So we must move in leaps and bounds so that it will not be right for Senegal to be used as an example, to be teaching us democracy. Because by the way, let me just quickly chip this in. Nigeria got universal suffrage before the United States. The first general election in Nigeria was 1922. As at that time, women were not allowed to vote in the United States. Blacks were not allowed to vote in the United States. But in Nigeria, it was a general, everybody was allowed to vote. And then there are other things I could have, if not for time, I could have reeled out. That we have ahead of the United States, ahead of the United Kingdom, ahead of France and others in Nigeria. But the sad thing is that we don't value our history. So what do? We look away from those things. But those things are a reality. So we must go back to the basics. We must ensure that democracy stays. Then again, just permit me to just quickly add one line. The people who elect to the National Assembly, we must be careful. Because you can just find out that again and again, we have missed it. We just keep electing people who don't really understand. They have the constitution. They don't know, they think they are there to be building schools, setting up electric poles and transformers. No. I keep telling them, those of them I know, I say you people are just, aiding and abetting criminality. It's not your duty. Your duty is to make laws. And there are laws that need to be made.
Very true.
In Nigeria.
Very true.
which they don't even know that they are supposed to make such laws.
You see, Chinya, when we talk about moving in leaps and bounds, one thing we ain't talking about now is the part the INEC plays in all of it, because we might have all the statistics right, we might have every element that makes for good governance right, but if our electoral system is porous, it's not built enough, I don't think we would have it right, because where those who work for INEC, for instance, become part of the corruption in the system, it's not possible. Never possible to have even the brightest of all to govern us.
Let's hope that we have more discussion with INEC.
All right. Well, we hope so. We'd love to say a very big thank you, of course, to Emeka Madunago for being part of our show, and Dr. Olainka Yebile. Thank you so very much, Doctor, for also making our time to be part of our show today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So, and for you watching, we'd love to say thank you so very much for being part of our show today. Please do well to visit our website at www.enterprisetv.com. Like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms. And Enterprise TV is 7. She is. And I am Henry Ikubike. On behalf of the entire team, thank you so very much once more. Bye-bye from us.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.